Welcome back to Stat Check Sunday. Today I'm talking to John. John is actually a former student of mine from several years ago, and when he reached out to be on this show, I was surprised to hear that he was playing NL100 and NL200 on his own stake after having battled stakes 10 times higher than that in the past when he was staked. I expected to see that he was really struggling with his game, but when I opened his database, I was actually more surprised because he's absolutely crushing his pool. John's winning at around 10 big blinds per 100 after rakeback. So in this episode, rather than focusing on purely technical leaks, which we are going to get into a little bit, I'm going to focus more on how a clearly strong player like John is seemingly stuck at NL100 and NL200. And I want to focus on what exactly is holding him back from moving up and how we can create a plan for him to fix that. So let's jump in, and just a quick couple of reminders before we start. These are not my active students on this show. Anybody can apply to be on this show, and if you want to participate, you can go to the link in the description and submit an application on my website. This is currently the only way that you can get one-on-one coaching from me if you're outside of my flagship program, Mobius Cash. Secondly, these videos are for educational purposes only. Remember that poker involves real risk, and most people who gamble end up losing all of their money. So please approach poker responsibly. And with that, let's jump in. You say that you have a good understanding in your application of high-level concepts, but you've gotten sloppy. And long-term, you see potential issues with playing a much higher portion of your volume in a tracked environment. You're playing 100 to 200 NL. You're winning at 8 BB per 100 pre-rakeback. What are the areas in your game that you feel insecure about if you were to move up to NL 500 right now?
I think there's quite a few spots where I'm thinking about my specific hand, not my overall strategy, and just trying to make the best play with that specific hand and not worrying about the other player figuring out what I'm trying to do and countering that. And that my thought would be, as I move up, there will be more players who are able to see what I'm doing, see the lines that I'm leaving hanging, like maybe too weak or too strong in some spots,
Mm-hmm.
and counter exploit that.
Got
And
it.
so I don't 100% know. It's possible that me, maybe even likely, that like the sum of all my decisions that I'm making with each individual hand results in a reasonable overall holistic strategy for my range. But I don't like there's probably a spectrum where there's some lines where it just results that way, and there's some lines where it very much just doesn't result that way. And I'm not 100% sure which lines are which, if that makes sense. Like I'm not
In other words,
100%
you feel
sure.
like you're playing a somewhat simple strategy and you're not sure how face up it actually is or how balanced or unbalanced you look to a sophisticated opponent.
Yes, though I would argue that it's depending on perspective, the more balanced strategy might be less complicated, if that makes sense. Like, I would argue that in some lines, I'm doing more with individual hands than an equilibrium strategy would do. Like, an equilibrium strategy in some spots would be more defensive in nature, if that makes sense. Like,
Like you're
instead of
splitting your
betting,
range more than
yeah.
a
It's so like if I don't think someone's betting the river enough and then the and out of position line, like I'm just gonna leave that range, like the get to river range and the discontinued line a little bit hollowed out. Or, like
Mhm.
I might be doing like a flop strategy where, like there's some hands that want to go big and some hands that want to go small, and then there's a bunch of hands in the middle that don't really care. But if you did everything, if you picked one size with all of them, it would be it would leave one range too strong and another range too weak. And I'm not necessarily worrying about that. Like I'm only worrying about the hands that I think have EV to pick one line over the other or pick one size over the other and not necessarily focusing on all the hands that are indifferent. Like I'm just sort of like doing stuff with the other hands.
Real quick, if you want to use the exact GTO Stat Checker that I'm showing in this video, I've built versions for both cash games and tournaments. For cash games, it covers everything from NL50 to NL5K, any structures, and GG games. You'll get complete pre-flop and post-flop stats that highlight your deviations from GTO, so you can instantly see where you're leaving money on the table. For tournaments, we've just rolled out ICM and PKO solutions with all new stack depths ranging from 4 big blinds to 40 big blinds. You'll also get full chip EV post-flop coverage. Both versions come with hand-to-note pop-up profiles, step-by-step video setup guides, and access to our private Discord community. Check the link in the description to join over 400 members in our GTO Stat Checker community. Now back to the episode. How comfortable do you feel at your current stakes, 100 and 200 NL? And how much harder do you think it's going to get when you do move up to NL 500?
I would
And
say,
for the record, you have played higher stakes in the
mhm.
past, right?
Yeah, I can give experience on that. I would say very comfortable at current stakes, though I do see some small adjustments. Like I almost wonder, like volume wise at higher stakes, if I just wasn't seen as like a threat or like something that individual players would focus on. Maybe the right way to say it would be like yet, but there's like because the pond is so much smaller in terms of skill or like highly skilled regs at lower stakes that I feel like I might be getting a bit more focus. Like people are paying attention to me. I do see it's not super detailed, but I do see players making adjustments at lower stakes that I was surprised because I didn't see them getting made at higher stakes. Some examples would be like guys that are, let's say, overall 8% three bet players. And against me, they're betting like 14%. And
They're three betting 14%.
three betting 14%. And there's obviously sample issues, and it could even be just like a little bit of luck on where our positions are. But I've also
Hmm.
seen some hand examples that are approaching out of line that I wouldn't expect from someone whose default style is under three betting, if that makes sense. And
Okay.
it's funny, I didn't actually see much of that at higher stakes. And so I
Hmm.
guess when I was asking that question, it's like it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that the lower stakes players would be more willing to adjust than the higher stakes players. Is it just a function of volume and information exchange that eventually those higher stakes players would be making those same adjustments and even in a more sophisticated way? Or, I don't know. If there's not much to be left open, then there's not much to be left open. But I do feel like it I guess, yeah, that to answer your question, that I feel like overall, not a ton is happening, but it's actually more than I would expect at my current stake. And so that's what's maybe leaving me. I don't even know if insecure is the right way to say it, just anticipating that there'll have to be some changes that I'll make as I move up stakes.
Hmm. And how much harder do you think it's going to be? I mean, you have played higher stakes in the past,
It's
and
funny.
let's say you're winning at 8 now. Um, well, let's like worst case scenario, if you do start getting exploited, how much do you think your win rate would drop?
It's funny. My win rate is at every stake has been almost exactly the same. Like from 100 NL to 2K, it's like between 7 and 8 big blinds for 100.
Hmm.
And My guess is that the rake is offset by the tougher competition, and it's a little bit of a function of like game selecting better at higher stakes. Like, there's always like one stake that you're just going to fire up whatever table's there and then start to mess around with game selection where like, even when I was staked and playing higher stakes, like I wouldn't play a 2K table if it wasn't a good 2K table, but I would play a 500 table if it like wasn't a horrific 500 NL table.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've looked at the regulated sites a bit, and from what I've seen, the win rates are higher at NL500 than they are at NL100 or 200.
Yeah, that's
And
not that shocking, right? Like,
yeah, I think it's so like a site like GG Poker, they increase the rake or they decrease it less as you move up. And
mhm.
so that sort of forces the win rates to be the same across all stakes. But like regulated sites like Stars and Party, they don't do that as much. So you're playing you're paying less rake and the pool composition with the regs and the fish is roughly the same. And then there's probably some of that effect that you're describing too, which is that the games at the higher stakes probably, I think, probably from what I know about the regs on these sites generally, the higher stakes games are going to run around a fish more often,
Mhm.
whereas people are going to be more conservative playing without a fish at NL100 or I'm sorry, at NL500 compared to NL100 or 200, they're going to reg battle a bit more there.
Sure.
Whereas at these higher stakes, it's like a fish sits and then the table fills up. So maybe there's some of that going on too.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
That
if
makes sense.
anything, I would expect if nothing changed, your win rate would either stay the same or go up a little bit if you moved up. Do you think that's true?
I think that's very possible. Yeah.
Okay.
The counter to that is like my goal is to make money, but like I do enjoy the problem solving and competitive nature of poker. Like I don't know that I could do like a factory job where I just like press the button every time the card rolls past me type of a thing.
Hmm.
Like I like the like continuously improving and optimizing and like my interest is in maximizing, if that makes sense. Like I don't mind or even would enjoy doing the type of study that would get me from, like if it takes, assuming there's like decreasing marginal returns to studying, I would still be interested in studying for those decreasing marginal returns. And maybe
Hmm.
even to the point where like if I like it might not even be like profit maximizing to study more. Like it might be profit maximizing to play more or to just search out softer games or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the I don't know the like playing my best or whatever feature of poker.
Hmm.
And so even if my win rate didn't change or even got slightly better, I'm interested in getting I'm interested in both having a higher win rate now at my current stake and having a higher win rate as I move up in stakes. Like
Hmm.
if whatever the maximum possible thing, like if it's say it's not 15, say it's just 10 or 11 or whatever. Like I'm interested in figuring out how to get to that point.
Yeah. You don't have to choose between studying and playing. You can definitely do all of the above, right?
Mhm.
And for you, the main thing I'm going to try to convince you of in this session is to just move up more aggressively.
Yeah, sure.
Um, but
You haven't talked about standard deviation either. Did you see what it is?
in your win rate,
Yeah.
You mean your standard deviation or
Yeah,
the standard deviation of the
mine,
sample?
mine standard deviation. Just like whatever shows
Uh,
up at BT4.
well, I think Cantanote does dispersion now instead of
Yeah.
standard deviation, but do you know what it is?
Like 82.
Okay. That's
That's
very low, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just laughing that that's your
Yep. So you're printing money, and yes, I do think you should prioritize moving up aggressively. And when I say aggressively, I don't mean just move up now and don't look back. I do think you should take small shots.
Mhm.
But if your goal is to make more money, there's no reason for you to stay at the stakes that you're at any longer. Um, Now, I also agree with you when you say that there's diminishing returns of studying at this point if you're winning at 8 BB per 100, because every big blind that you add gets 10 times harder to add than the last one.
For
So
sure.
as you get to these higher win rates, it's like in the Olympics when you have the 100-meter sprint and these guys are trying to shave a tenth or a hundredth of a second off of their time. Like when you get to the ceiling of what you can do, it gets harder and harder to shave off that tenth or hundredth of a percent.
I,
So
I would even
it's
argue it's a little bit worse than that. That like it's almost like golf where like you make a swing change and you're like maybe even a little bit worse for a bit sometimes. Like there
Mhm.
might even be some changes where like I learned something and then fuck it up while executing it until
Yeah,
like really narrow it down. Yeah. But
that
yeah,
could
I
be.
agree. Yeah.
Um, but I also don't think you should stop studying
Mhm.
because you, and I think you want to look at your poker career from a high level, and you generally want to do what will keep you interested and playing and showing up and putting in your volume for as long as possible.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
And so if something in your routine is causing you to burn out, it doesn't matter if it's making you a little bit more money in the short term. Because if you kind of burn out or you get, you know, depressed about poker, it's like it's not enjoyable to you, and you stop playing. So there's like even for any amount of time, there's nothing that is more negative EV than stuff that causes you to not show up for work, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So keeping the game interesting to you and is essential for sure. I'll always agree with that. Um, I do think that moving up generally is a good way to make the game more challenging and interesting, right? It's going to
Sure.
be a bit harder. So that will probably just motivate you to study more, I think. I do want to look at your pool real quick. I don't want to like spend too much time on the technical stuff, but just to get a background. So these are your stats that we're looking at here. Like I said, 8 BB per 100, very good win rate. Your frequencies generally look very good. The one thing that stands out to me is that you overfold the turn quite a
Mhm.
bit by about 6%.
I would say that's mostly intentional.
Okay. So what types of folds are you
I'm
making? You specific lines you're identifying or
yeah, that
under
I'm
bluff?
assuming it's a mix of assuming they're having a very good idea that they're going to be under bluffing the river, but under bluffing because their turn range is too equity oriented, meaning that
Mhm.
it's like if they were under bluffing the river by just bet checking, then I would probably be more willing to call some of these like
Yeah.
like just like complete in different hands, like bluff catchers that can't really improve.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's what's happening. Like just from hand examples and looking at my own pool research and looking at individual players, there's quite often players who are under bluffing the river who are betting at a high enough frequency. And so my interpretation of that is that they're seeing the game through a lens of like those old upswing four categories thing where it's like good value hands bet, medium value hands check, draws bluff, and air checks kind of a thing. And so that they're they're not hitting the like unblocker like the hands that don't block folds but don't aren't necessarily draws, like the true air hands. I don't think they're hitting at anywhere near a enough frequency, and I see them merging a bit and being very equity oriented in their bluffs. And so my
Okay.
interpretation of that is that should result in a turn overfold in specific lines against specific opponents.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're doing it intentionally, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, it's the kind of thing that you probably want to gradually ease your way out of as you move up,
Mhm.
because that'll probably become less true as you move up. Then it'll be better to just play solid in
Mhm.
some of those spots. Um,
Ideally, like this is an interesting spot in terms of like playing against better players. Like the players I perceive as able to adjust to that, to me, would be the players who are already doing thing like playing in a reasonable way on the turn. And so like I wouldn't do that against those players. And I in
it's
against
it,
a few,
it's not so
yeah.
much that they would adjust to you immediately. It's just that you're you're probably going to be they're going to be balanced more often.
Mhm.
I don't know how often exactly, but more often than your typical 100 or 200 now player as you move up. And so some of these assumptions, like if you're folding a hand that isn't a mix, that it's actually just like a pure call, um, and your assumption's wrong, then you're just going to be losing EV
Mhm.
there, right? So
Yeah, for
that's all
sure.
I'm talking about. And it's not going to be a night and day thing, but just a gradual thing, I think. And your raise frequencies
Yeah.
are a bit low. So you generally underraise the flop. You underraise very slightly on the turn versus small sizes. That's common. And then you underraise a bit on the river. But otherwise, your aggression levels are very strong. You're not overfolding the river. That's quite rare. Um, and you're bluffing a lot on the river. Um, you do have a bit of a sizing tell. I would like to see you just distribute your bluffs a bit more evenly across all of your sizes
Mhm.
because your pool is going to be overfolding versus all sizes. So let's look at your opponents. And this is the reg filter for your pool. Just insane passivity across the board. So they're folding 59% on the river. GTO would be 48. So that's 11% river overfold. So definitely correct to be over bluffing the river. And then they're also overfolding turn by 8%.
Mhm.
So that's pretty impressive that they can actually
So yeah,
manage
no
to
no
overfold
mercy.
the turn by that much and then still overfold the river massively.
Mhm.
And they're under raising too on the turn and the river. So just very passive um, opponents in general. And
Yeah. It's funny, like my fold to river bet used to be lower. Like when I was playing higher, it was lower. And it's something that I've like forced myself to fold more against
yeah,
specific opponents. And it's like hard. I'm like, I think I have like even split equity, but I'm like, but this guy's overfolding by so much. And he's betting the river so infrequently. It's like, is he even hitting the like the thinnest value bet that I think I'm having split equity with? Like I feel like there are
yeah. Maybe,
spots.
maybe we should take a look at some of your river calls because when I looked through some of your hands, it actually looked like you were making some pretty big folds. So now I'm kind of wondering, how are you defending that much and also making the big folds? But we can
You're
look at
doing
that.
both, right? Like there's some spots where I'm not folding anything, and then
Yeah.
there's some spots where I'm overfolding, right? And so I'm
Mhm.
just trying to make the best decision against my exact opponent.
Yeah.
And also, like I'm not used to playing six tables. Like sometimes I time out on stuff, and it's not a frequent occurrence, but it's happened before. Um,
Okay.
I don't think that should be any of the big river spots. Like I think they should all be intentional, but like I don't know, there could be one or two hands that are just like an intensity thing, or like was I focused enough while I was playing this
Mhm.
exact hand?
Okay. Let's look at some pre-flop for your opponents. So their three bet frequency is 9%. You can see the defense versus open raise. If we go to the raise column, that's their three bet frequencies. There's a lot of
Mhm.
blue, which means that they're just too passive, not three betting enough. Their four bet is too low as
Mhm.
well, 13. At low to mid stakes, it should be higher than that, like 15 at least. And they actually over defend against the three bet.
Yes, I see that quite a lot actually.
Yeah.
Like I
So
my I three bet bluff less than I used to, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, you see
I'm
this.
willing to use a bigger size as well.
It's kind of funny. Like on some of these regulated sites where the pool is really soft, the line between a reg and a fish is blurred. And this is a fish tendency. Like if we go to the fish tab and we look
Mhm.
at their full to three bet, you can see it's super low.
There's some rigs, it's insane how low they're like it's like 34%
Yeah.
first three bet. I'm like, I don't even understand. What are you calling? Like you have to be calling like king eight off or something like that in spots. Like just hands that are garbage or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the
Especially if you're
natural
not four betting enough. It's like,
it's the natural tendency of being unstudied in poker is to just call too much against three bets.
it's
So
funny.
that's what we're
That
seeing
was the
here.
opposite of my like just starting intuition was like I
Mhm.
was always a folder.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so they're over defending. They're also under four betting. So maybe if you took those two things together, it wouldn't affect your optimal three bet range that much.
Yeah, I do. It's an odd thing as well. Like there's some like the guys who are way under folding versus three bets are not the guys with the worst, let's say worse, the lowest 1-1 cell flops, if that makes sense. Like they're like still finding ways to defend, let's not say well, but like almost okay in those
Hmm.
spots. And so like to me, it just seems like merged value is the play. Like that's like if I look at, let's say,
Yeah,
a preflop
but
chart and it has a bunch of mixes at the top and then a bunch of mixes at the bottom, I've sort of over time, and over time we're talking about months that I've been in this pool, pushed more towards hitting higher frequencies than the equilibrium frequency at the top end, then put in like a little bit less on the bottom end, things that are like quote unquote bluffs or whatever.
mhm. There's gonna not be probably as big of a correlation as you would think between pre-flop frequencies and then their post-flop frequencies. Um, so it's not like if your range is a bit wider going post that everything gets out of whack and you see people start to massively overfold or um, over bluff just because their range is a bit wider.
Mhm.
Um, it tends to like you're still hitting the board, I guess, is how I would put it,
Mhm.
if your range is a bit wider. So it just doesn't like you're not going to see it show up quite that black and white. And I think it's probably what you're describing is correct, where if someone's sticky or pre-flop, they're gonna defend well post flop, or
Mhm.
better than like they're not gonna massively overfold. Um, so yeah, like I think the post flop frequencies, they're more behavioral than that. It's less about the range that they're getting to post
Okay.
flop with. So okay, so yeah, your three bet is a bit low, 9%,
Mhm.
and your four bet's a bit low, but otherwise pre-flop looks pretty sound. Like you're not massively overfolding anywhere. You do overfold versus min steals a little bit, it looks like, but that's a pretty common issue.
Yeah. Would you
It's
say
not.
fold versus three bet is higher than the equilibrium frequency?
Um, I think it should be mid to high 50s at your rake structure.
Okay. That's actually higher than I thought you were gonna say. Like I might be more used to
Y-
looking at higher rig sense for that.
It depends on what size your pool is using too, but
They
like
I don't see I
if I
don't
look at
see
your
as
fold
many.
column, there's not like pure blue, so it should be fine.
I don't see as many of the like I feel like 12, 12 and a half is more frequent than like 13 and a half, 14 for
Yeah, okay.
the average of three bet sizes. Though, but I would say they're betting bigger than equilibrium, like in the field, like under the gun open, hijack three bets. They're
Mhm.
using like pots sometimes in those spots, which just seems
Okay.
odd to me, but yeah,
Okay. And let's look at your reg to fish ratio, the last thing we'll look at for your pool.
I'm gonna say two regs for every one fish. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
so we
guess.
have 280,000 hands for regs, 210,000 hands for fish. So
A little bit better than that. Yeah, yeah.
that's pretty insane.
Yeah,
Um, hard to lose if you're playing
fair.
a solid strategy in a pool like that
There's some
with
guys that I
pretty low
can't.
rake and in general, like pretty low rake, you're getting rake back. You've got almost two fish per table. That's a pretty good situation to be in.
Yeah, there are definitely some guys I'm like, I can't figure out how you're winning, but they still keep showing up that are rigged. So it's like,
Let me look at, I'm gonna blaze through this because I went through your hands and I didn't find anything like significant in the hands that I looked at. I
Mhm.
felt like you were playing very strong, and most of the time you were just up against a fish. So the hand kind of, it was somewhat straightforward. You
Mhm.
weren't getting like put into too many complex spots, at least in this few sessions that I looked at. Okay, so this hand, you face a small three bet.
Yeah, I actually I know who this is
Okay.
already, even though it's anonymized. Yeah,
1/3 flop, you called standard. And then 1/4 on the turn, you call again. I wanted to show you this because people are starting to make these small turn bets
hmm
um, in the out of position double barrel line more often. And it's very counterintuitive, like how you need to play against these. This is the Pio sim for this spot. And you need to be raising against this bet 20% of the time.
yeah, I'm definitely not hitting that. And though I would say against him, I don't have the aces and kings.
Okay. Yeah, that the range will be a little bit more
Yeah, sure, but
balanced
yeah,
than yours probably, but like
yeah,
are you pure raising
no,
pocket twos? Probably not. It's a good move because it's people are going to overfold against it, and it's very counterintuitive to raise enough. And
Mhm.
you also have to go against some principles that you might have learned, like when I have a set in position and the stack to pot ratio is pretty low, I'm not usually going to raise that hand. I'm going to slow
Right.
play. But when you face this bet size, what you see is your sets tend to do mostly raising. You have to raise your sets a lot. You have to raise your strongest top pairs. And then you do see a lot of weak pair and pocket pair bluffs.
Are the
So
real aces, are those flush draws or are they doing different things? Interesting.
um,
So it's the with the heart, it's the hearts combos are not raising. It's the well
it's
that
doing a bit of both, so
yeah.
that it has the combo draw with ace five heart. That's pure raising, and then the ace three is, for whatever reason, ace three of hearts is not racing at all. Kind of impossible to pattern recognize there.
Sometimes you can tell with their bluffs if they have bet folds that have the three of hearts in it. But I don't I honestly nothing stands out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the nines, they won't ever be raising, but I just wanted to show you that. And then
This is a
we
bluff.
hit a,
I
you're bluffing here.
yeah, if so if he's if his river fold is like let's say his overall river fold is like low 60s. It, I feel like I can get away with bluffing here. And I like it's possible this opponent has no check calls, if that makes
And
sense.
why do you think that?
I think that he if he has any of the hands that he would be willing to check call, he'll just bet them small and solve. I like if we did like an equity breakdown where you made me guess how much equity we have here, I would say it's like over 20%. And I still feel like against him I can get away with bluffing.
Um, yeah, you have about 25% equity roughly, so you're right on the money there. Um, Possibly. It just I would say it's close. It's a bit dysfunctional in theory.
And I'm the sizing is weird too, right? It's like if you were gonna
Right.
try to force him to fold, if you're gonna take a hand that's like has a lot of showdown, you wouldn't it seems a little strange to bet like 2/3 versus a larger sizing than that. But
Yeah, in theory, it's like it looks like it's a roughly two big blind mistake. Um, no matter what size you choose, whether you jam or you go 60%-ish on the river. Um, and then when you do bet, he has to actually fold like pocket tens, pocket jacks.
I have a strong
Um,
opinion on what he's doing with those.
you think he's just pure folding them?
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he folds like queen 10, queen jack as well.
King queen also folds, ace queen folds. Um, I mean, it's possible. It just it jumped out to me as
It's out
like
there. I give you that.
I wasn't quite sure. Yeah, if you were if you would rather just check back, if you would rather jam instead of going two-thirds.
Hmm.
But okay, I think it's close enough. You do make a good point about how much your pool is just overfolding and
This
whatever.
guy in particular,
Okay.
I know who he is because he's a there's only one guy that short stacks
Hmm.
that and he's I I he's playing unique ways.
I got you.
I
All
mean,
right,
how
we'll
can
go to
you
the next
like?
one.
I mean, let's think of like why on earth would you short stack in this pool, right? Like, there's no excuse. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Here I was curious why you're making this four bet.
I think he's overfolding to the four bet by like I think his fold versus four bet is going to be like high 50s overall. Like
Okay.
I would not say that this is an equilibrium four bet. I think
No, it would just
also
be a pure fold.
I think also like there's a small like how do I say this? I think he's four betting more when he's or sorry, he's folding the four bets more when he three bets in the small blind than he does in the big blind.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I guess what you're saying there is he's got a simpler three better fold range
Yeah.
from the small blind. Okay.
It's a player specific exploit. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to see if you're trying to four bet bluff more in general or if this was just against
No,
this
no, no.
player.
I think the average like the median player's not folding enough. Like I want to go the other way.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then, okay, this one, another kind of fairly simple hand, but
It's
button
the same guy.
opens.
This is the same guy for sure.
Is it the same guy as the three bet hand?
Uh, uh, the nines hand. Pretty sure.
Three, 3-4-1-8. No, it's a different guy.
Oh,
Three,
okay.
two, seven, one.
Interesting. Oh, this is a fish. Okay.
Yeah. I was just curious here because it looked like he's a fish. This looks like a pretty clear call to me.
Okay.
Um,
I don't have a
yeah.
strong opinion on this. Um, it
I think it's a pretty clear call versus fish. Like I think this is just losing to
would
fold.
would you call if he was a full stack and jammed as well?
Yeah, like that would
Oh,
be
am
my
I off by that much? Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Because the fish will just show up with too much random
Mhm.
stuff. Unless you had clear stats that he was a very, very
Right.
tight fish, but this isn't. This is like pretty standard fish.
Mhm.
So I think it's just a call.
Okay.
But yeah, like not super interesting
I
hands that I marked this time, but
I my I am a bit of a folder at heart. Like I'll admit.
mhm. Okay. So let's talk about your moving up plan. What is your routine right now? It's just exclusively 100 and 200?
Mhm. And then yeah, it's exclusively 100 and 200. I play a little bit on other sites, but like this is let's say 85 to 90% of my volume, 100 to 200 NL on
And
these
do you have
specific
like
techniques.
a specific bankroll goal that you're
Yeah.
going for before you move up?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. And then there's some unique timings where so my fiance is in school to be a nurse practitioner and she's finishing clinical, it's like their residency. She's in her last one. So like financial flexibility opens up a lot next year, if that makes
Okay.
sense. And so like so I was staked and the staking company let's say went defunct.
Hmm.
And so it was a little bit of a rapid rotation. And I just felt like I cannot go broke
Right.
until like January, February.
Or hopefully never, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. But it has to be when you do the calculations, right? You're like, okay, this is like, like a low single digit risk of ruin. Like it needs to be pretty close to zero
Hmm.
for right now.
Well, okay. Well, when I say move up, what are you imagining?
So
Is it?
I would just change the ratio at first. So like try to play all 200, no 100.
Mhm.
That's not going to it won't be perfect. Like I, if I can't find any good 200 tables, I'll just play a few 100. Where now it's like mixing one or two tables of 200.
If you
So
went on a 20 buy and downswing at 200, would that be uh like would that be a disaster for you right now?
um, no,
I'm just trying to get
but
a
that's about
understanding of
that's
what
about
type of a hit you can take.
it's weird. Like I pulled back as much as I can, but the lifestyle expenses are still in between a low stakes player and a high stakes player, if that makes sense. Like there's some things that I can't change, like the car payment, the rent payment,
Mhm.
that like it would the time that it takes is more would be more concerning than the actual swing. So like if I could withstand losing 20 buy-ins at 200 and stay in action, but it would shorten the expenses runway.
Mhm.
Like
So how
because
many months of expenses do you have? Just
I
roughly.
have about
Need to be
three,
exact.
and then I have a small, like I have some flexibility. I have a I work for my family business, so I have I don't do a lot anymore, but I still have a little bit of cash flow coming in from that. So
Okay.
like,
Well, that's good.
yeah.
So John just said that he only has 3 months of living expenses saved up. And to be honest, I wish that I would have probed a little bit deeper on this on the call. I didn't actually ask him what he meant by that, whether that's separate from his bankroll and then how big his actual bankroll is. But it's pretty clear that 3 months of living expenses is not nearly enough. And I think that's probably the source of most of the risk aversion that John is feeling about moving up. It makes sense now. You cannot functionally do your job as a poker player if you only have 3 months of expenses saved up. You can't afford to take any risks. You can't afford to go on a big downswing. You can't afford to have anything really bad happen in your life externally, financially, if you only have 3 months of runway. 3 months is like the bare minimum that I would advise somebody with a normal job to have saved up for living expenses. If you're a poker player, you need at least 2x, but I would say probably closer to 4 times that amount. I think a good rule of thumb for an absolute bare minimum when you're moving up in stakes is to have 25 to 50 buy-ins in your bankroll and then at least another 6 months of living expenses separate from that if something goes wrong. And given this information, I'm not really sure why John doesn't feel like this is more of a crisis situation. If I were in John's shoes, I would actually be in crisis mode. I would be saving as much money as possible and reducing my expenses as much as possible to try to extend that runway out to 6 months as quickly as I can. So that would involve cutting all costs and probably, having a family business helps a lot too, utilizing that opportunity to make extra cash and just work as hard as I can to create more of a buffer so that I can comfortably move up. I will be giving him that advice, as you'll see in the remainder of this video, but I do wish that I would have emphasized it more that this is actually his core problem.
It I My worry would be I would lose 20 buy-ins at 200 and I wouldn't be able to take any money out of 100 for like 2 months, if that makes sense.
Uh, what do you mean by that? Like until
Like
you get
I
even?
wouldn't I would yeah, or like I wouldn't be able to withdraw funds from 100 NL. Not necessarily until I get even, but just like I wouldn't potentially make enough at 100 NL to
How many hands per month do you play?
uh 40 or so. This is about, yeah, about 40.
So 40,000 hands per month, and you're playing mostly 200, right?
It's pretty close to half and half.
Half and half. Okay. So let's say average buy-in 150.
Mhm.
And let's say if your win rate is 10 after rake back,
Mhm.
how many buy-ins is that? 40
So,
buy-ins, right?
right, yeah, it works perfectly.
So what
Yeah.
is that? 6K
Mhm.
per month?
Mhm.
I'm doing that right? Yeah, 6,000 a month.
That's all. Yeah, that I'm
And so
not
what
doing
if
the math
it's
with you, but that's like roughly what I mapped out. That's what I mapped out when I wrote everything. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
6K a month, let's say 60 to 70K per year.
Mhm.
Um, and okay. So if your win rate is not 10, let's say it's 7 or
Mhm.
7.5, I mean it's still 4,500 a month. Like with the amount of hands that you're playing and with the win rate that you have, it seems like you should be able to move up pretty quickly unless your expenses are just quite high. Um, I don't know
Yeah,
exactly.
I was actually kind of hoping to be all at 200 by now. If you
Mhm.
look at the graph, there's like a you know, like the last 40K hands are like at two big blinds for 100. Like
Yeah, I mean, I guess your expenses don't have to be that high now that I now that I do the math. Like you're in the United States,
it's a first
60
world
to
city.
70K per year. It's that can be kind of tough. So like, okay, so there's two risks here. There's one risk, which is that you move up too fast and you go on a downswing that you can't really afford to go on.
Mm,
But I do think that there's another risk you don't want to ignore, which is that you get stuck for too long at an
mm,
average buy-in of $150.
right.
And that even with a high win rate and high volume, you it's like you don't ever achieve the escape velocity that you need
Mm,
to get to higher stakes. Um, so I think those are both kind of real risks. Like in the first case sounds worse because you go in a big downswing and you lose a lot of money. But the second case is also pretty bad because it
mm,
just essentially means you end up stagnating for a
right.
very long time. Um, okay. So moving up for you would mean basically playing all 200.
Yeah, it would be like, I don't know, an inchwormy type thing where like I would pull the backup, meaning less 100, and then after pulling the backup, I would play more 500. Like
Hmm.
as the it's like if you just keep making eight big blinds for 100, it's like a nice smooth line up. That's the way that I would progress it.
Yeah. And do you think that it's purely financial, or is there like a mental game aspect to this too, where it's like you get more nervous generally playing higher stakes? Do you have that
No, no, that's
issue
way
at
too
all?
much. I feel the same losing every stake. Like
So it's purely just logistical, financial uh, aspects of moving up.
yeah, though I would say like there's it's like I don't play any different and it doesn't feel any different at higher stakes, but I would say that like outside of playing, like my general life, like I might be slightly more stressed losing at higher stakes than lower stakes though. Like now that I think about it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a weird like it's a very subtle, I don't know if tilt's the right word, but like it shows up in like procrastinating getting up in the morning or like I planned on leaving at 3 and I leave at like 4:30. Like it shows up in these like very small ways, but it never shows up in my actual play. Like it's an interesting form of tilt. But
So you feel like you're playing the same quality, but you're just generally more stressed playing
yes,
higher stakes.
yeah. And it
Okay.
doesn't feel more stressed when I'm playing, like if that makes sense. Like I can just like I'm fine when I'm playing. It's just like afterwards and the next day or before or whatever feels more stressful.
How did you handle it when you were staked playing much higher stakes?
It just didn't play as much when I was losing.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's a good adaptation. I'm
No,
just
it's
saying
an
that's what I
honest
did.
answer.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the money spreadsheet, and it's a pretty straightforward table. It's just showing you how your annual income goes up if you increase win rate, if you increase stakes, or if you increase volume. So the idea behind this is that if you increase your volume, you just increase your income linearly. And
Mhm.
that's assuming you play the same quality when you increase your volume. For you, you're already playing 40,000 hands a month. So there's not much we can do to increase volume, right?
Mhm.
You are also already winning at 8 big blinds per 100 pre-rake back, 10-ish post with a standard deviation of 80 big blinds. And so, like I said before, you can definitely increase your win rate further, but there's a ceiling and it's going to get much harder to increase it further. Your annual income versus your stakes, if you think about it, like every time I move up in stakes, my stakes double.
Mhm.
That is the one lever that you have left to
It's exponential.
increase your earning potential. So it's fine to stay at lower stakes if you need to financially, but low stakes, winning at a high rate, it can give you this false sense of security, like you're making a lot of money when you're actually going to be always feeling like you're scraping by and your expenses are eating up most of your earnings. Like at the end of the day, if you stay at 100 and 200 and all. And I want you to actually calculate, like I just did, every month what your average buy-in was, what your win rate is, what you think it is, and your volume, and calculate if I play this month, 12 months per year, how much am I going to be making per year? Because that's how you put it in perspective and you remember, like, you actually get a realistic idea of how much you're making. I think it can be a little bit misleading when you're winning at 10 BB per 100. Like it can feel like you're more comfortable uh, than you actually are. I don't know if you feel that way or if you're itching to move up.
I would say I don't feel like I'm making a lot of money.
Are you itching to move up
E-
or do you feel comfortable?
I hmm, I would say it's somewhere in the middle. Like I don't feel comfortable. I like at the start of me looking like sitting down and like this is how much money I have in the world. This is these are my options to play. Let's come up with a plan. I was more itching to move up than I am right now. I do feel like there's like a small it's not even break even. Like it's funny to think about it that I'm like oh I feel like I'm downswinging, but I'm like, it's like you're winning like 2 to 3 big blinds for 100 pre-break back.
Mhm.
But like I do feel like that has weighed on me a small amount. I'm almost disappointed that I haven't made more money and I'm not ready to move up yet, if that makes sense.
Say that again.
I'm disappointed that I haven't made more money and I'm not ready to move up yet.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I want to see you get out of that middle feeling. Because when you say I feel like I'm in the middle, that strikes me as you feel comfortable in the situation that you're in. Um, like it's sort of like, have you heard that heuristic? Um, it let me ask you it this way. If you couldn't answer that you're in the middle, do you
you made
feel
me think of
more
one.
do you feel more comfortable? Would you say you feel comfortable where you are now, or you're absolutely itching to move up to NL 500? If I had
I
to force you to pick one or the other.
I would say it's closer to comfortable and it changes, but it does change a bit when I think about time horizon. Like right now, at this very moment, I feel more comfortable. But when I like think about my overall life, like in a more holistic or like zoomed out way, more itching to move up.
This is actually a really useful heuristic that I learned from the podcaster Tim Ferriss. Whenever he asks someone to rate something on a scale of 1 to 10, he asks to give him a rating, but they cannot rate it a 7 out of 10. Because a 7 out of 10 is just basically it's like saying, I don't know, like it's not bad, it's not good. And when I asked John the tough question of, are you comfortable here or are you really itching to get out of the situation you're in? He gave me this sort of similar ambivalent answer of, well, I feel sort of in the middle. But when I actually pressed him, he had a really insightful response, which was that he does feel comfortable right now. But if he actually projects outward and thinks about where he would be if he continued his current behavior for many more years, he would look back and he would be very disappointed. I think that's super honest, super insightful of John to be able to realize that. And I also think that it speaks to the value of having a coach. If you're a type of person like John, where you have a little bit of trouble pushing yourself to achieve the maximum that you can, or if you're risk averse and every time you go on a 15 buy-in downswing, your response is to play defense and to move down where it's safe, that's when it's really good to have a coach who can look at your database, who can review how you're playing and say, actually, no, like this is expected. If you're going to play poker, you're going to have some difficult periods like this. And you need to just keep doing what you're doing because what you're doing is correct. Or you need to keep doing what you're doing and move up to higher stakes. That's what I'm trying to do for John right now. And I hope that he takes it to heart and that he doesn't end up several years from now looking back at tons of low stakes volume that he played when he could have just been playing the same strategy at higher stakes, making 2x or even 10x as much money. Let's do a little more math and then we'll make a plan. So this is another article on my site, Selection Bias Invariance Calculations. And this basically just shows you if you play 50,000 hands and your win rate is 10, which it is,
Mm-hmm.
and this is with a higher standard deviation, by the way, much higher than yours. 115 is what I use for these calculations. Your average maximum downswing, so that's going to be the, if you ran this sample a million times, on average, what is the worst downswing you went on during the period of 50,000 hands? That will be 17 buy-ins.
Mm-hmm.
And at a 90% confidence interval, it's 29 buy-ins. So it would be rare if you went on that big of a downswing.
Mm-hmm.
And then for your standard deviation, I would say we want to cut like 30% off of these numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, so the average outcome for your next month, plus a little bit of volume, is going to be you'll go on a 12 or 14 buy-in downswing. And if you hit a really unlucky month, you're going to go on a 20 buy-in downswing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hit like the mother of all unlucky months, it might be 30. And if you go on a much bigger downswing than that, call me because
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably something's pretty wrong.
I think even 30, I think is pretty wrong. When I ran these with like, what if we, it's like you look at the different numbers, like what if you had a 12 under there and then had an 85 standard deviation number?
Yeah.
It's like it's much closer between like 10 and 15 for those spots.
Yeah, like if I look at your graph, there's not a lot of downswings here. If I look even in big
It's
blinds.
flat. It's really just flat, right? Like if you look at from like 80 to 128, like it feels flat, even though it's literally not. Like it's winning two and then another two, 2.5 from rake back. It's like it feels weird to complain about. Like when I talk to my friends, it's like, oh man, I'm like, it feels so bad. Like I'm only winning four big blinds for 100.
Yeah.
But like, but it is, like a bit of a downswing. Like this is what a 48K, 50K downswing is going to look like, right? It's like it's not down from zero, it's down from the like trend line.
Mhm. Yeah. So, okay. So I do think that's true you're going to normalize to whatever stakes or win rate that you currently
Mhm.
have. Because the edges in poker are just never going to be that big that it just feels easy. It just takes a lot of time and patience, no matter what your win rate is.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so let's say, next month, would you be able to withstand a, let's say, a 15 to 20 buy-in downswing at NL200?
Yes, but probably not 30. Like
Okay.
we're right
Yeah.
on the edge of like I'm not going to run out of cash playing, but like I'll spend the rest of my cash as well.
Hmm.
Like it's like if and it takes 2 months, that's sort of we're sort of towards the end.
Okay. And then you said uh, January is when your uh, basically your expenses are going to ease up.
Yeah, and then there's just, like in like a real pinch, like a get struck by lightning thing, like it wouldn't be that big of a deal financially.
Okay. I don't think we need to worry about a 30 buy-in downswing, to be honest with you. And so I'm pretty comfortable advising you to just stop playing 100 now. Um, because it sounds like you have the runway where you can withstand like a pretty rare downswing.
Mhm.
And the vast majority of the time, what's going to end up happening is you just end up making 30% more money.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And again, it sounds risky to say that, but there's also a huge risk of staying at stakes that are too low for your living expenses because then you never get out of it, right?
Mhm. No, I'm sold on that second part that like when I look at the long-term plan, it's like the career trajectory needs to be moving me to a place that like I'm making, I don't know, let's say like 200 or so $1,000 a year. Like it
Yeah.
needs that's sort of the like if I had a crystal ball and it said you're never hitting that number, it probably means that I should be, like I should be I should be like, polishing up my resume type of a thing.
I agree. Yeah. And if you're in the United States, you're playing poker, I think that's a good goal to shoot for. Unless you are committed to just like living a really low expenses
That's not gonna work.
lifestyle.
It's not.
It sounds like you're getting married, so probably not in the cards for you. Um, okay. So yeah, I think try to play exclusively 200 if you don't want to reg battle and there's a good 100 now game. I would say that that's like the one time where I would say it makes sense to switch.
Mhm.
Like a good 100 now game is going to be better for you than reg battling 200.
Mhm.
But I would like to see you get 80 to 90% of your volume at 200 this next month instead of 50%.
Yeah, that makes sense. Would
And
you
then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
like, is there a downswing number where you would start switching that? Or do you feel like mentally it works better with students that they have like hard numbers where
Well,
like,
since you're already playing half your volume at 200, I
Mhm.
would say unless you go on like a 20 buy-in downswing, probably just stick to it because your win rate's
Mhm.
so high. Like
Right.
as your coach right now, if you're going on a 15 buy-in downswing and I see that this is your win rate and you want to move down, my job is to shake you and
Yeah, yeah.
say, don't move down. Just like keep going. This is going to blow over
Mhm.
probably very, very soon if
Right.
we, based on your win rate and the math. So yeah, I would try to not move back down to NL100. I would try to, if you do go on a downswing, try to stay confident and stay the course. Because your win rate's just so high and the games are so soft. So it makes sense.
Mhm.
And then once you feel comfortable, um, maybe you can withstand a 30 buy-in downswing at 200 or 40. And by the way, I think you should try as hard as you can to reduce any expenses during this period, like
Sure, of
really
course. Yeah.
save, because these next several months like can make a big difference in the long term if you can make it to higher stakes quicker. There's a
Mhm.
certain escape velocity that happens in poker. Once you get to higher stakes, you just start making way more money. Um, but as soon as you're comfortable with a 30 plus buy-in downswing at 200 NL, I would start taking very small shots at 500 NL.
Yeah.
So on the weekends when games are good, you see a particularly good game at 500, mix that in. And you don't have to play a ton of volume at 500, but play good volume at 500. And you can create a rule for yourself. Like if you lose 3 buy-ins at NL 500, you drop back down until you make it back at 200.
Mhm.
And then you take another 3 buy-in shot. So this is sort of what I call like a small jabs approach. It will keep you from ever going on such a big downswing that you feel really discouraged, that you won't be able to make it back quickly enough at the lower stakes. So the jump from 200 to 500 is hard and it's imposing because it's a 2.5x jump. And I think you just need to try to take small shots, protect yourself from ever going on a really big downswing there, but just aggressively take very small shots. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sold. I'll play. I'll play. I'll look at all the 200 tables first today.
All right. Sounds good.